Now, before we talk about how to fix Charley horses, if you haven't already seen our video on 4 causes for Charley horses, pause this and go down in the description below the video and click that link to watch that video first, or some of these explanations of how to fix the issues are not going to make sense to you. But in this video, not only are we going to talk about some ways to get some immediate relief from these Charley horse and foot cramp type situations, we're also going to talk about how to correct the actual underlying cause so that they go away for good. Here we go.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So the first step you can take is use some supplements that can help out. And keep in mind that most people are not going to find immediate relief. If you're knee deep into cramps, this might not bring you some relief in the next hour. Now, it can take some time for some of these supplements that we're going to talk about to help calcium get to the right tissue level where it can help those muscles relax and relieve these cramps. But there is a step that you can use that for a lot of folks will bring almost some immediate relief, and that's magnesium oil. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about supplementing with magnesium and how magnesium can help calcium get to the right place, and that can be a big help for what's going on. But when you supplement with magnesium internally, you really don't want to take it at night like most people will suggest. And we'll put a link to our video below here for why supplementing with magnesium at night is bad. But if you're going to use some what's called magnesium oil or magnesium spray, this can almost bring some relief immediately for some folks because it's helping that magnesium get right down to the tissues immediately. So you can find magnesium oil or magnesium spray on Amazon and then just spray it right into where you feel where you get your cramps before bed, if that's when you get them. If you get them in the middle of the night when you're sleeping, you really want to spray it on before bed. You can also use it just anytime you feel like, oh, that feels like I might have a cramp coming on pretty soon. I'm going to put a little bit of this and rub it into those tissues. So for some folks that can bring some quick relief, but it's usually not going to correct the whole problem long term. Now, some of these other supplements that we talk about that are going to help get calcium down to the tissue level are not going to work immediately. So I don't want you to just take one once and be like, oh, that didn't work, I guess I'm just stuck with this stuff. So these are things that are going to actually help the underlying cause, and when you're correcting an underlying cause of a problem, it's going to take a lot longer than the hour that it takes for a pain pill to kick in. These things might take some little bit of time to get the calcium where it needs to be to correct the actual problem. So some supplements that can help, one is lysine. This is an amino acid that's really good at helping push calcium back down to the tissue level. And a person might take 1 or 2 capsules before breakfast and before lunch, and that can sometimes be enough to create some improvement for some people. Another supplement that can help push calcium back down to the tissue level are omega-3 fatty acids. Now, we're not a big fan of using a lot of omega-3 fatty acids like everybody else is, and we'll put a video in the description below this video, a link so that you can check out our video on who should stop using omega-3 fatty acids because they can create a lot of problems for some folks. And even though we don't view omega-3s as the best answer long-term for most people, but if Charley horses are like the worst thing in your life, then maybe you can use some now to get some relief while you're working on correcting some of these other underlying causes that we're talking about. You may also need to supplement with a little bit of calcium and maybe even some magnesium. Magnesium can be important in helping calcium get to the right place. But I find that most people don't really need to supplement with a lot of calcium. They usually have enough calcium, it's just in the wrong place. So these easy steps can be helpful to kind of push calcium back down to the tissue level where it needs to be to get some relief. But the steps that really seem to bring the best results for the long-term getting rid of Charley horses for good type situation is to help the body stop pulling all the calcium out of the tissues in the first place. So that means that if you're taking too much vitamin D, you need to reduce that dose. And we learned in the causes for Charley horses video how to look at your urine pH and to look, okay, is the urine pH higher than 6.1? And if it is, I might need to reduce my vitamin D intake or my sun exposure. That also means that kind of helps you monitor your urine pH. Maybe you just look at it once a week or so, and if you start to see it go too high, you can take steps to bring it down before the Charley horses even come around. That also means that you may need to reduce your carb and sugar and liquid sugar intake if you're consuming way too much, and all those sugars are causing all the calcium to get pulled out of the tissues. And often the biggest and the most effective step is that if your mineral and nutrient levels are too low, take steps to correct that so that the body doesn't have to keep shopping at its own tissues and bones. You don't want the body pulling all those nutrients out of your tissues, and it's only going to do that when those minerals or nutrient levels are too low. So the most common cause of someone not having enough minerals or nutrients in the body is digestive malfunctions. So when we eat food, we really need to break that food down correctly so that we can bust the food apart and pull all the nutrients out of that food. That's why we eat food, to get the minerals and the nutrients out of that food. So one thing you can do is you can just look at your blood pressure. And if your systolic blood pressure, which is that top number, is lower than 112, that's a really strong sign that there's not enough minerals in the system to allow the body to function the way that it wants to function. And you can get a blood pressure cuff at the pharmacy for $30 or $40, and you can just check this on your own. You don't have to wait until your next doctor appointment to see what your blood pressure is. And just know that if you're on any type of antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications or some other medications, also have the ability to make your blood pressure look higher than it really is. So if you're on one of those medications and your systolic blood pressure is, 115, don't say, oh, well, it's in a good range. It's actually the medication that can often be making it look like it's in the right range. So this is what you want to look at. If you're dealing with any digestive symptoms at all, like burping or bloating or acid reflux or constipation or diarrhea or nausea or even skin or acne issues, all of these are really strong signs that the digestive process is not working the way that it's supposed to work. And my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, can walk you through figuring out which aspects of digestion may not be working correctly, and if they are, what steps you can take to correct those. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below this video so you can get the whole thing totally for free. And what's great is when you can fix digestive malfunctions and actually pull more nutrients and minerals out of the food that you're eating anyways, then all of a sudden that makes it a lot easier to reduce your need for carbohydrates. Now the body isn't going to scream for carbs because the body's getting what it needs. Now it's a lot easier to get rid of your cravings and to reduce the amount of carbs and sugars that you're eating that are pulling all the calcium out of the tissues. The weight loss book actually will help you understand how to fix any digestive malfunctions, and it will also help you understand how to eat in a way that will allow you to keep the blood sugar on a more even keel and stop pulling so much calcium out of the tissues. Because if your mineral levels are low and you try to reduce all of your carbs and sugars like we talked about in the beginning, you're going to be a little bit miserable. You're going to have issues like cravings and maybe even depression and anxiety and insomnia and dizzy spells. A lot of issues that can happen when someone's minerals and blood sugar both go low at the same time. So the book kind of helps you understand how to eat what we call medium carb foods and give your body the carbs that it needs to function without creating these huge spikes and crashes in blood sugar where all the problems happen. That's when the body's going to be like, all right, I got to shop for some nutrients and some minerals, and I'm going to pull them out of the tissues, and then all the calcium starts coming out of the tissue. So, the steps that we talked about in the beginning, the lysine and the omega-3 supplements, and those can help, but these steps that stop the problems are the ones that really bring the greatest long-term relief. Now, it's possible to have other causes for Charley horses, but with more than 95% of the cases that we see, these are the causes, the issues that will help people get more calcium down into the tissues and also stop the body from pulling calcium out. And this also helps us understand why sometimes stretching can bring relief. When you're in the middle of a cramp, you can stretch and kind of help that relieve a little bit, and the stretching process is just kind of opening up those tissues and allowing minerals to redistribute and get into the right place and bring some relief. So if we can just stop all the calcium from being pulled out and help the body get it down to the right place, then all of a sudden the Charley horses don't show up at all. So the book that you'll find in the description below will help you walk through those steps of figuring out what are the right steps for you and your unique body chemistry. And if you hate to read, we also have a totally free digestion course that'll walk you through the same steps as the book and understanding how to look at your body chemistry and your blood pressure and the pH to see where calcium might be going. And that'll be totally free too. We'll put a link to that free course in the description below this video as well. For now, if you already know that your blood pressure is low and indicating that minerals are probably low, jump over and watch our video on how to boost mineral levels and gain some more insights there. I can't wait to hear about your results.